Hey everyone, welcome to my next video. In this video also we will going to see about GitHub. Uh, in my previous GitHub video, we have created a repo in UI and cloned the repository locally using a HTTPS method. And then we have added a file and then pushed the file into main branch. Then we created a branch and we updated the same file in branch, and then we merged the branch changes into the main. So that is the demo I showed you last time. So in this video, what we are going to discuss is some of you might be aware that I also write technical blogs in dev2 techno website. So I kind of write a variety of topics from infrastructure code, AWS related technical blogs, as well as DevOps tools related blogs as well. While back, like I have written one blog related to the similar one, creating the first Git repo. But in this blog, I was talking about creating a repository in in our local environment, and we will be initializing the repository as a Git repo, and then we are pushing the repo into the website basically. So that is the blog I have written. So for that, let's anyway jump into the blog and we'll just go through that. So first we'll be talking about the introduction. So the introduction talks about it is a kind of Git tutorial, and this blog provides steps to create the repository locally, and the basic Git commands that can be used to push the file. And this article has been inspired from the Git cheat sheet URL. So it is the cheat sheet having in the basic commands that is needed for Git at the various stages of source control code management basically. So if anyone interested, they can look into the Git cheat sheet URL basically. You can also Google search and open that Git cheat sheet page actually. So that's how we can do. And as I mentioned, like what we are trying to do is we will be creating a new repository in UI, and we are not going to clone it basically. Instead, what we are going to do is we will be creating a repository in our local terminal, and then we will be pushing that code into the remote repository actually. So that is the idea of this blog. So first, as I mentioned, we'll be creating a repository in GitHub website. So the steps follow the similar pattern, and I have explained what and all I mentioned in my last tutorial, right? So we can add the name, and we can set it as public, and we can also mention whether it needs a readme git ignore and the license file. So we can choose it, and the repository will be created. So next step is we have to copy the GitHub repo URL from address bar, and it will be used later in the step 8 while we update our local repository into the the GitHub repo we created in UI. So you can just copy it and keep it handy somewhere. And then the third step is create a directory with a similar repo name. So for example, I named my repo as test repo. So I'm creating a repository directory name as test repo only. And then I'm going inside the repository. And then next command is very important command. So we have to run the git init command. So in my last tutorial, I was talking about there is a folder called .git, right? So that makes that particular repository as a Git repository. So wherever there is a code is there in Git, when we check out the repository, we can see there is a folder called .git will be there. So in this folder, what we are trying to do is instead of cloning that, we will be creating a temporary local repository with the same name in our terminal. and then we are running the git init command inside the test repo directory. Okay, and next step is like, no, we need to create a branch, right? So that is this all manual step actually. Uh, for that, like, we have to create a branch like git branch -m and the branch name. So main branch would be the master branch of like, no, particular repository. That's up to you to decide. If you want to keep your main branch in some other name, you can just keep it. But whoever going to use that repository needs to know that default branch name. So ideally, or like, no, it is always recommended to keep the default branch name as main branch, and whenever someone requires to create a new branch, they can create it in their own like, no, interest of name. And then now add the repo to the remote git URL basically. So after adding the git init command and creating the main branch, we have to initialize, like, we have to add the remote repository name into the particular folder, so that later when we try to do a like, no, git push, right, so it will know that this code has to go into that particular repository in git UI. Then we can create a temporary file, and I'm just adding a readme in this repo. And the same process, like, we'll be following like git status and git add, and then we are adding the first command, first commit command actually. So we are adding that particular readme file into that repository, and this uh, that remote origin URL is the one we have copied whenever after creating the repository in UI. So so now the changes are staged, and now we are pushing the changes actually. So since this is the local repository we are trying to push for the first time, carefully notice. So we have to run the command like git push hyphen set upstream origin main. So this is the command we need to run when we are trying to push the local repository into the remote origin. Basically, in this scenario, like, we haven't cloned the repository. What we are trying to do is the UI having a repository named test repo, and for that test repo repository, we are adding a code from the local repository. For that only, we are kind of after initializing, we are adding the remote origin, and then we are adding the upstream command basically. So it will be pushing the code into the main branch in the Git UI basically. So we can now see the repo updated with the checked in files. So this is the major topic in this blog I have written. So the repo link also available in the blog basically. So anyone interested can look into that. Similarly, I will also post this blog URL in my YouTube video. If anyone interested to know more about like, pushing a local repository into GitHub, they can try to do that. So that's it for today, and thanks guys, and we'll meet in next video. Bye bye.